Now, if you can see, if it dawns on you that there's a seeing and a hearing, even feeling that goes on in the sleeping character in the dream, and we can be aware of a dream when we wake up from it in the morning, and all those experiences seem to be happening in the dream. Feeling of fear, lions chasing you. Sensation of flying because you're having one of those flying dreams. Yeah. You can experience grief in a dream. Family member's just died. You've just got wind that a family member has just died in the dream. Experience grief. You can see people in the dream, mountains and buildings and all sorts of things going on in the dream. It's not a huge leap to realize that the exact same thing is happening here. It's not a huge leap at all. If you can fully see this or that occurs when you get into bed at night and you put your head on the pillow, consciousness drifts off. It's not me that goes to sleep. Consciousness. Yeah. It gets to a certain level, boom, up come the dream, the sleeping dream character. That dreaming won't occur unless consciousness goes into abeyance some. It won't happen. It's just the mechanics of it. You get to experience that every night when you get into bed. Yeah. Then consciousness will go a little bit deeper and then the sleeping dream's gone. And we might, more often than not, call that a deep sleep, the deep sleep state. Not conscious of anything. Not conscious of the world here, where the bed's lying on the bed in the room, and not conscious of any dreaming that's happening. Just deep sleep. Yeah. Then consciousness starts to stir again, and up comes another dream, the sleeping dream. It can happen several times throughout the night. And then the last time, consciousness starts to stir, up comes the last dream, and consciousness just goes this way. So this is a pointer, okay? Consciousness goes this way, yeah. And then sometimes you become lucid in the dream just before you wake up. There's a knowing that, oh, this is a dream, just before you wake up. Yeah. And then we open our eyes, that dream disappears, and now we think we're awake. Consciousness is not fully awake yet. It's now busy creating this dream. And the dream character in this dream is trying to wake up from this dream. And you know that when you wake up from the sleeping dream, what happens to the dream character? Poof. What happens to the dream? Poof. That's why it's called a dream. All of it imagined, none of it real. Seems real though when you're in it. When your seeming character arises in that dream, seems real. I'm experiencing fear and love and hate and grief, sadness, best sex you've ever had. Like the whole gamut goes on in the sleeping dream. And we think that's real. It's an absolute belief. This is real. You guys have heard me say many times, relax, relax, relax. Next, relax, relax. This has got nothing to do with the character. Unless you're telling me the character in the sleeping dream can influence the dream. Who's putting the character there? Who's dreaming the character into existence? And then the same thing happens here. And it happens so fast we miss it when we open our eyes in the morning. We miss it. Take two. It's another dream, effectively. This character that we take ourselves to be, this personal me that we take ourselves to be, is all created internally. I shouldn't say internally. In mind. I shouldn't say mind either. There's no mind. But it's happening, isn't it? And it seems internal. Seems internal. The whole world, this whole me world that's going on in here, apparently. You're not creating it. You've got nothing to do with it. With that world that's got zero. Like you've got no control. You've got just, you're a character that arises in the sleeping dream, and you're a character that arises in the waking dream. Absolutely, that's what's happening. But you don't know that until you wake up from both. It's, you know, if you can fully get your head around the fact that, you know, when we talk about the sleeping dream and what happens with that, the mechanics of that, we think, honestly, we think it's me that goes to sleep. Man, you need to look at that. It's clearly not the me that goes to sleep. What about those nights when we can't go to sleep? Tossing and turning. Oh, I couldn't sleep. I had so much on my mind. That'll be the story. There's no one there to have a mind, let alone so much on the mind. Yeah. So, let me ask everybody this. When I talk about the sleeping dream, when you get into bed at night, you get into bed, the light, you've got your bedside light on, it's still on. You get into bed at night and you are conscious of your immediate surroundings. Then you reach over and you perhaps turn the bedside lamp off. The room goes dark. Okay. Consciousness is now experiencing something very different. Yet there's still the knowing that the room is there. We're still conscious of the fact that the room is there, even though we can't see it. Why? Well, because the lights are out. Then we get comfortable in the bed and we put our head on the pillow and we close our eyes. From that point on until we wake up in the morning, is everybody here crystal clear on what happens there, that whole process, or not? Never done this before. All right. And I'm going to have to create another label, as if we haven't got enough of them. Anyway, this might help with what it is that I'm actually trying to point to. So when we're asleep and the body's lying on the bed and the dream arises, there's a certain level of consciousness that is happening. Otherwise, the dream wouldn't be happening. Okay. So in the complete absence of consciousness altogether, this world disappears, and so too does the inner dream world. Then there's just a state of absence, just absence of everything. Not even aware of that. It's just absence. Yeah. So we go from So the amount of I'm struggling here. The amount of consciousness that is, let's say, prevalent in the deep, deep, deep sleep state is, I'm going to call it nil, just for the sake of this exercise. Okay. Then consciousness starts to stir and the sleeping dream state is experienced. Okay. Now, what do we want to call that? Somewhat conscious. All right. So from nil to somewhat conscious. And then we go from somewhat conscious to what we believe is the waking state. And we're just going to call that conscious. Okay? But there's a further opening up of consciousness. And I'm going to call... I struggle with labels. Now I've got to paint a picture. I'm sorry. So that teachers are experiencing, not that there's see what happens? Anyway. There's nil conscious, somewhat conscious, conscious, and then there's super conscious. That super conscious is the waking state, fully awake. Whilst consciousness is not super conscious, dreaming happens. And you know it. You've at least got evidence of that in the sleeping dream. And what I'm telling you, this awaking dream is just it's a continuance, if you like, of the sleeping dream, with consciousness still not fully awake. It's consciousness. You use zip control over consciousness. Nada. As a character, as a me character, the me character that we take ourselves to be. So all that's happening throughout this whole process is we are becoming more and more and more conscious, more awake, more aware. We start to have insights and aha moments. And we start to see things. Why? Because I'm more conscious. Nothing to do with the me. Zip.
The theory, like the connection between beingness and consciousness, like because beingness.
Same thing, honey. They're not two.
Yeah.
They're not two. They're the same thing. Beingness and consciousness, awareness, This is the exact same thing.
But beingness then has different states of
Yeah,
being.
but if you want to still stay in the mind to try and understand what I'm trying to point to, then you could go there. But it's what for? Why? When I'm pointing to a direct experience here, direct.
Terry, it seems in those examples that you gave,
Yeah.
there's a discrete jump from one state to the next, to the next.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that in the last state, it's not a discrete jump, but it sort of happens gradually. There's a continuum. Am I correct about that?
Kind of, George. Yeah. It's the all is inclusive, including the apparent dream George character that's here and living here and having a life and so on and so forth. Yeah. That character is also inclusive in terms of the waking happening. Has to be there. The George character has to be there.
Right.
As a dream.
And also it seems that I'm getting more of an awareness than I had a year ago.
Good.
So it seems that there's been a change.
Good.
But it seems that there's a change, but there's more to go.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is, yeah, seriously, all I'm saying is we're just becoming more and more conscious, George. That's
right.
the real.
So I'm just trying to say it's a continuum,
Yes.
as opposed to the dream versus waking, which is discrete. You're either awake or you're asleep.
Yes.
You know, there are three states you described.
Yes.
And there's no in between.
Correct.
Here,
And when
there seems to be in between.
correct, and then when the eyes do, and I called it super conscious. I couldn't think of anything else.
No, that's a great word.
Okay. Yeah. Like when that occurs, anything that we thought of prior to that is not this.
Yes.
Nothing like levels of consciousness, or isn't the being experiencing that? So the mind is still dividing everything up and labeling the shit out of everything. Whilst it's doing that, we stay stuck. Well, we're not even there to be stuck, but the dream character thinks it's stuck. Yeah, I'm just trying, if I can get you to see the significance of what occurs when you get into bed at night, I'm trying to get you to go there, experience it. We never notice this. Get into bed, conscious of the room. Eventually, you kind of just close your eyes. Sometimes we're not even aware of the eyes closing. But the eyes just kind of close. And the room disappears. But we're not aware that the room disappears. It's not until you wake up, it's not until you're sitting here now and we talk about it that we know the room disappears, right? But in the moment, we don't know the room disappears. We're too busy being a character in a dream that's just popped up in the sleeping dream. We're not conscious of what has just occurred at all. The dream character in the dream, I mean. It's not conscious at all that it's a dream character and, the real me is lying on the bed in the room. It all disappears. Yeah. So the process is consciousness kind of falls asleep, becomes less and less conscious until it's so less and less conscious that the room disappears. Then the dream disappears. Arises. Yeah. Okay, now that's happening. And that can happen several times throughout the night. Then consciousness goes a bit deeper, and now we're not even conscious of a dream. It's just nothing. Beautiful. I had the best sleep last night. I was in such a deep side. So I was just fully unconscious. Yeah, like getting an anesthetic. fully unconscious. Yeah? And it's consciousness that stirs. I've got to get you guys. It's not the me that's doing any of this shit. It's consciousness that stirs. Dream comes up, then conscious goes into abeyance. That dream disappears. And then another one, consciousness starts to stir. Up comes that dream. And then finally, in the morning, the last dream, instead of consciousness going that way, so as the sleeping dream disappears, the sleeping dream's still there. And then we go, pop, and the eyes open, and now we're conscious of here. And we think, this is it. We think this is it. Yeah, but the dream character thought whatever it was going on in the sleeping dream, your dream character thought this was it too. Whatever it was, according to what was arising in the dream. This is not a huge leap. You could just see the mechanics of this. Yeah. And then the dream character is running from one satsang to another and devouring books and sitting with teachers and running off to India and sitting with these great divine teachers. Jesus Christ. Why is this character doing all that? Because this character wants to experience enlightenment. It wants to experience waking up. My question there, if you investigate, can the character experience waking up? You can't. It's this sort of truth that sets you free. This is the stuff that we need to see, not focusing on who am I, for Christ's sake. Yeah. So it's running around. It's doing all this shit because it wants to experience awakening. But all that running around that it, seemingly is doing is all necessary. It is a part of it. It's just that when the waking occurs, the dream character disappears and you're standing here with actual self. We seemingly experience that when we wake up from a sleeping dream, don't we? We would say, oh, I've just woken up from this crazy dream that I had last night. Yeah. And we would say, and it's me here, my actual self, that has awoken from the sleeping dream. We would absolutely say that. Now, if this is a dream, and everyone's telling you it is, then it's a matter of recognizing what are the mechanics. The content doesn't matter. He said, she said, they did, that doesn't matter. The content doesn't matter. What are the mechanics here? How is this all strung together? You can see how it's strung together. You start to experience how it's strung together. And all that's happening is consciousness. It's just becoming more and more conscious. More and more. Until one day it becomes so conscious that it goes pop. And you wake up just like you do in the morning. Seriously. And when you wake up, you know that it's not the dream character that woke up. That was a dreamed up character. I'm the real me, is what we think. But this too is a dreamed up character. Yeah. That's the truth. That's the actual truth. Now we just need to come to see that. That's all. And evidence is everywhere. It's all over the place. The evidence is everywhere.